The massive halls of the Galactic Council chambers fell silent as Ambassador James Miller stood up. His tall figure, wrapped in the simple black diplomatic uniform of Earth, cast a long shadow across the ornate marble floor. The gathered representatives of over 30 alien species watched with mounting unease as the human's face remained perfectly calm, too calm. "For 2 years we have sat in these chambers," Miller began, his voice carrying easily through the vast space. "For 2 years we have presented evidence, shared our concerns, and attempted to work within your established systems." He paused, letting his gaze sweep across the assembled aliens. Some shifted uncomfortably in their seats, while others tried to maintain their air of superiority. The head of the council, Representative Gray of the ancient primary species, tapped his ceremonial staff against the floor. "Ambassador Miller, surely we can continue these discussions. There is no need for hasty actions." A small smile crossed Miller's face, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Hasty? 2 years of watching our colonial ships disappear in unexplained accidents is hardly hasty. 2 years of having our technology patents stolen through your bureaucratic loopholes is not hasty. 2 years of watching pirates raid our settlements while your peacekeepers arrive conveniently late, every single time, is not hasty." The chamber erupted in murmurs. A representative from the warrior Krull species stood up, his scaled skin reflecting the chamber's lights. "Are you accusing this council of corruption, human?" "I'm not accusing anyone of anything anymore," Miller replied. "We're done with accusations. We're done with evidence. We're done with negotiations." He pressed a button on his wrist device, and suddenly every screen in the chamber displayed the same message. "Earth YTHDRAWs from DAK Galactic Council." The alien representatives burst into chaos. Some shouted, others demanded explanations, and a few simply sat there, looking worried. Representative Gray banged his staff repeatedly, trying to restore order. Miller waited for the noise to die down before speaking again. "You all know where Earth is located. You've all read the reports about our planet's classification as a death world. You've all studied our history, yet somehow you thought we were being diplomatic because we had to be." He picked up his data pad and tucked it under his arm. "We were being diplomatic because we chose to be. Because despite our violent past, despite evolving on a world that tried to kill us every day, we wanted to believe in the possibility of peaceful cooperation." The Krell representative snarled. "Is that a threat, human?" "No," Miller said softly. "This isn't a threat. This is just me informing you that humanity is done playing by your rules. We tried it your way. Now we'll do things our way." As he walked toward the chamber's exit, an elderly representative from the scholarly Mendari race called out, "Ambassador, you can't just leave. The consequences." Miller stopped at the doorway. "The consequences." He turned back one last time. "You should have thought about the consequences when you decided to test humanity's patience. For the record, this isn't anger you're seeing. This is disappointment." The massive doors closed behind him with a resounding thud. In the stunned silence that followed, Representative Gray's voice shook slightly as he said, Perhaps we should have heeded the old warnings about species from death worlds." A junior member of the council staff rushed in, their face pale. "Representatives, we're receiving reports. All Earth ships are returning to their territory. All human diplomatic missions across the galaxy are being evacuated. They're really leaving." The chamber erupted once again in panic and argument, but a few of the older representatives remained quiet, their faces showing real fear. They remembered the ancient texts that spoke of other Deathworld species and how the galaxy had learned the hard way never to corner them. Humanity wasn't retreating. They were clearing the battlefield. And in the depths of space, Earth's fleets were already on the move, their true numbers and capabilities about to be revealed to a galaxy that had gravely miscalculated. News of humanity's withdrawal from the Galactic Council spread across the stars like a shockwave. In high-tech monitoring stations throughout alien space, operators watched their screens with growing concern as human ships vanished from trade routes one by one. On the bustling trade world of Prima Hub, alien merchants huddled in groups, sharing worried whispers about their human business partners suddenly closing accounts and settling all debts. The usual bright chaos of the marketplace felt subdued, heavy with tension. "They're preparing for something," muttered Trade Master Bolt, his four eyes blinking rapidly as he reviewed the latest market data. "Look at these numbers. In the past week, humans have bought up massive amounts of raw materials, steel, titanium, rare elements, enough to build a fleet." His assistant, a young alien named Peak, flicked through more reports on their holographic display. "But Master, their military production was strictly monitored by the Council. They couldn't possibly." "Fool," Bolt snapped. "Do you really think they showed us everything? Those monitoring stations we placed near Earth, the humans knew about them. They knew we were watching. What we saw was only what they wanted us to see." Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out. On military outposts, alien commanders received disturbing reports about unusual energy signatures from Earth's sector. In scientific institutions, researchers frantically reviewed their data on human physiology and capabilities, looking for anything they might have missed. Admiral Stern of the Council Defense Force stood before his superiors, his tentacles twitching with barely contained agitation. "We need to act now. The humans are clearly mobilizing for war." The Defense Council shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Head Counselor Pod raised a limb for silence. "We cannot act without proof. Starting a war based on speculation would be disastrous." With respect, Stern continued, "You don't understand them like I do. I've fought alongside human ships during joint exercises. They never showed their full capabilities. They always held back, always had another trick up their sleeve. And now," he gestured to the tactical display showing Earth's sector, "now they're not even pretending anymore." Reports kept flooding in from across the galaxy. Human colonies were fortifying their positions. Earth's solar system had gone dark to all long-range sensors. Trading posts reported human merchants buying up advanced shield generators and weapon systems through third parties. In a secret meeting room deep within the Council headquarters, Representative Gray met with the oldest and wisest members of various species. His hand shook as he activated an ancient data crystal. "Our ancestors," he began, "left us warnings about species from high-gravity worlds, about creatures that evolved under constant threat of death. The last time the galaxy faced such a species," he paused, his voice trembling, "they nearly destroyed the old empire before they were stopped." One of the gathered elders, her scales dull with age, spoke up. "But humans seemed so reasonable, so willing to talk." "That's what makes them truly dangerous," Gray replied. "They're not just strong or tough. They're patient. They think. They plan. And now," he looked around the room, "now we've given them every reason to be angry." The meeting was interrupted by an urgent message. The holographic display showed a Council science vessel, one of many that had been secretly studying Earth's defenses. The vessel's captain appeared, panic clear in his voice. They knew we were here the whole time. We just detected hundreds of hidden defense platforms. They're everywhere, and they're all activating at once. We're leaving the system before the transmission cut off." As fear gripped the galaxy's ruling species, humanity continued its preparations in silence. No threats were made, no demands were issued, just the steady, methodical movements of a species that had evolved on a world that taught them one crucial lesson. Survival meant being ready for anything. And in the darkness between the stars, Earth's true fleet waited, their stealth systems active, their weapons primed. The galaxy had forgotten why Deathworld species were so feared. They were about to remember. Terror gripped the galaxy's major powers as Earth's entire fleet vanished from every tracking system simultaneously. The Council's most advanced monitoring stations, capable of detecting the small shuttle at the edge of known space, showed nothing. It was as if humanity's thousands of ships had simply ceased to exist. In the Council's Emergency Command Center, alarms blared as system after system went dark. The Chief of Monitoring Operations, Commander Vex, stared at his screens in disbelief. "Impossible," he muttered, his crystalline form flickering with stress patterns. "We had tracking devices on every registered human vessel. Every single one just disappeared." He turned to his staff, all of whom were frantically working at their stations. "Check the backup systems." But the backup systems showed the same thing. Nothing. Not even the quantum entanglement trackers, technology that the Council had kept secret from Earth, could detect the human ships. Reports flooded in from across the galaxy. A mining colony in the Outer Rim sent the first one. All human traders departed without warning. They were here one moment, jumped to hyperspace, and vanished. Our long-range sensors showed no exit point. Then came messages from military outposts. Human civilian ships requested emergency departure clearance. After jumping to light speed, they completely disappeared from our tracking grid. The Council's Science Division worked frantically to understand what was happening. Their lead researcher, Dr. Beam, presented his findings to the emergency session. "The humans haven't just developed some new form of stealth technology," he explained, his holographic presentation showing complex data streams. "They've completely mastered it. Our best theories suggest they found a way to bend space-time around their ships, making them literally invisible to all known forms of detection." One of the Council members interrupted. "But that's impossible. The energy requirements alone would be astronomical." "Yes," Beam continued. Unless they've discovered something we missed. Something fundamental about the nature of space itself." He paused, his voice dropping. "Remember, they evolved on a world with higher gravity than any of our homeworlds. Their understanding of spatial mechanics might be entirely different from ours." Panic spread as the implications became clear. Humanity's fleet could be anywhere. They could be positioning themselves around every major military installation in the galaxy. They could be preparing for a massive coordinated strike, and no one would know until it was too late. In a classified bunker deep beneath the Council chambers, the military leadership gathered. General Stone of the Warrior Caste slammed his armored fist on the table. "We should strike now," he roared. "Launch everything we have at Earth before." "Before what?" interrupted Admiral Flux, her energy form pulsing with anxiety. "We don't even know if Earth is still where we think it is. Their whole solar system could be hidden using this technology. We'd be firing blind." The room fell silent as a junior officer rushed in with new intelligence. "Sirs, we've detected something. Or rather, we've detected nothing." "Speak clearly," General Stone demanded. "Several regions of space. They're too quiet. No background radiation, no quantum fluctuations, nothing. These dead zones are moving through our territory. We think these are their ships." The silence that followed was deafening. Humanity hadn't just developed stealth technology. They'd mastered the art of invisibility itself. They weren't just hiding from sensors. They were hiding from reality itself. In space, invisible to all observers, Earth's fleet moved with precise coordination. Ships that no one could detect positioned themselves at strategic points throughout the galaxy. The humans had spent years studying their opponents' defenses, learning their patrol routes, understanding their blind spots. Now they could exploit every weakness without anyone even knowing they were there. The galaxy's powers had forgotten the most important lesson about humans. They didn't just survive on their death world. They had conquered it. And now, they had conquered space itself. The only question remaining was, when would they choose to reveal themselves? The galaxy learned of humanity's true power at precisely 300 Universal Standard Time. In a single coordinated strike, Earth's invisible fleet materialized around 50 of the most notorious pirate bases, strongholds that had mysteriously enjoyed Council protection for decades. The first attack happened at the infamous Blood Ring Station, a massive space facility known for its slave markets and illegal weapons trade. Security cameras caught the moment when the station's shields suddenly failed, followed by the spectacular sight of human warships appearing out of nowhere, surrounding the station in perfect attack formation. "This is Captain Jack Roberts of the Earth Defense Force," the transmission echoed through every channel. "Surrender or be destroyed. You have 30 seconds to comply." The pirates, long used to operating with impunity, tried to resist. Their defense lasted exactly 29 seconds. Across the galaxy, the same scene repeated itself. Human ships appeared from nowhere, their weapons displaying technology that shouldn't have existed. Particle beams that ignored shields, missiles that bent space around them, and targeting systems that never missed. In the Council's war room, the tactical display lit up like a festival celebration as reports flooded in. Commander Blake of Military Intelligence watched with wide eyes. "They're not just winning," he whispered to his colleagues. "They're not even fighting. This is an execution." The pirate bases fell one after another. Those that surrendered were occupied. Those that resisted simply ceased to exist. But what truly terrified the Council wasn't the military precision. It was the evidence being broadcast on all frequencies. Each targeted base had proof of Council involvement: financial records, communication logs, secret treaties. Humanity wasn't just attacking pirates. They were exposing decades of corruption. "How long?" demanded Council Leader Pod during the emergency session. "How long have they had this evidence?" The answer came from Earth's automated transmission. "We've known since day one. Every bribe, every secret meeting, every deal made in the shadows. We saw it all. We gave you 2 years to clean house. You chose not to." The most shocking revelation came from the Battle of Haven's Gate, the largest pirate stronghold in the Outer Rim. As human forces breached the station's defenses, they discovered weapons bearing Council military marks, supplies that had been reported lost to pirates, and most damning of all, Council military advisors. In the aftermath, several Council member species began quietly reaching out to Earth through secret channels. Their messages all carried the same desperate tone. "We didn't know. We weren't part of this. Please spare us." The human response was the same each time. "We know exactly who was involved and who wasn't. Wait for further instructions." Admiral Flux, watching the tactical displays with growing horror, finally understood. "They were never negotiating from weakness," she said to her staff. "They were giving us a chance to confess, to change. They already had everything they needed to destroy us." The attacks lasted exactly 1 hour. When they ended, 50 major pirate bases had been neutralized, thousands of slaves had been freed, and the galaxy's criminal infrastructure lay in ruins. But the political damage was even more severe. The Council's corruption had been exposed for all to see. The supposedly neutral peacekeeping force was revealed to be profiting from the very crimes they claimed to fight, and humanity had proven they could strike anywhere, at any time, without warning. As the dust settled, Earth transmitted one final message to the galaxy. This was a police action, nothing more. We eliminated criminals who had escaped justice through corruption. Anyone who was profiting from their activities has been identified and documented. Consider this a warning. The message ended there, leaving the galaxy in terrified suspense, because everyone understood what wasn't being said. This display of force had used only a fraction of humanity's fleet. The rest were still out there, invisible, watching, waiting. The Council's next meeting was very different from its usual sessions. There was no debate, no posturing, no claims of superiority, just the quiet sound of nervous beings wondering when the other shoe would drop. 3 days after the coordinated strikes against the pirate bases, Ambassador James Miller returned to the Galactic Council chambers. This time, he didn't come alone. Behind him floated dozens of holographic displays, each showing damning evidence that made the assembled representatives sink into their seats. "Let's talk about truth," Miller began, his voice carrying the same calm tone that had marked his departure. "Not the truth you wanted to hear. not the truth you tried to hide, but the real truth. The first hologram expanded, showing a detailed map of assassination attempts against human colonies. Red dots appeared one by one, each representing a failed attack that had been disguised as an accident or pirate raid. 37 attempts to eliminate our outer colonies, Miller continued, all of them traced back to this chamber. Not to criminals, not to pirates, but to members of this council. Representative Gray tried to interrupt, but Miller raised his hand. You had 2 years to speak. Now you will listen. The next hologram showed intercepted communications between council members and various criminal organizations. The timestamps went back decades, long before humanity had joined the galactic community. You didn't just fail to stop piracy. You actively encouraged it. You used it to keep younger species in check, to prevent them from growing too powerful. Miller's eyes swept the chamber. But you made a mistake with us. You assumed we were like the others. The evidence kept coming. Secret weapons programs designed to target human physiology specifically. Economic sanctions hidden behind bureaucratic procedures. Deliberate suppression of Earth's technological patents. In the audience chamber, several junior representatives from younger species began moving away from their seniors, the revelation of betrayal clear on their faces. But here's what truly interests me, Miller said, bringing up a new set of data. These are records of your previous attempts to contain other emerging species, species that mysteriously disappeared or suddenly went extinct after showing too much promise. The chamber erupted in shocked whispers. Miller let them continue for a moment before speaking again. Humanity wasn't your first target. We were just the first ones who saw you coming. He pressed a button, and new images appeared, surveillance footage from inside the council's most secure facilities. While you were watching us, we were watching you. Every secret meeting, every backdoor deal, every conspiracy to keep younger species down, we recorded it all. Representative Gray finally found his voice. This is impossible. Our security was designed by species who evolved in safe, stable environments. Miller interrupted. You never understood what it means to come from a world that tries to kill you every day. Survival isn't just about strength. It's about awareness, about seeing threats before they see you. The next set of holograms showed something that made several representatives physically recoil, proof that the Council had been deliberately sabotaging Earth's development long before first contact. You didn't want peers, Miller said softly. You didn't want equals. You wanted subjects, servants, species you could control through fear and manipulation. He paused, letting his words sink in. But you chose the wrong species to fear. The final piece of evidence appeared, a complete database of every council member's involvement in the conspiracy. Names, dates, actions, all meticulously documented. This information is now being broadcast across every communication channel in the galaxy, Miller announced. Every species, every world, every colony will know what their supposed protectors have been doing. The chamber descended into chaos as accusations flew between different factions. Ancient alliances crumbled in minutes as the weight of betrayal became clear. Miller watched the breakdown with that same calm expression. We're not here for revenge, he said, his voice cutting through the chaos. We're here because the galaxy deserves better than this, better than you. As he turned to leave again, he delivered one final message. You have 24 hours to resign. All of you. After that, humanity will take steps to ensure the galaxy's security, one way or another. He left behind a chamber full of once powerful beings who finally understood. They hadn't been containing humanity. Humanity had been containing itself, waiting for the right moment to expose the truth. The galaxy changed forever in the days following Ambassador Miller's revelations. The first domino fell when the Novian Empire, a relatively young species known for their technological prowess, publicly declared their support for Earth. We have reviewed the evidence, announced Novian High Commander Ray in a galaxy-wide broadcast. For too long, we accepted the Council's restrictions on our development. No more. We stand with humanity. Within hours, other younger species began following suit. The Traders Union, the Star Collective, and the Free Worlds Alliance, all races that had faced the Council's protective restrictions, pledged their support to Earth's cause. In the Council's private chambers, panic set in as their power base crumbled. "We must strike now," insisted Elder Spark, his energy form flickering erratically. Before more joined them. "Strike with what?" asked Representative Mark of the former Inner Circle. "Haven't you been paying attention? Our best weapons are centuries behind what humanity just demonstrated. And now," he gestured to the tactical displays showing more and more systems declaring independence from Council control. The true shock came when humanity revealed what they had been secretly developing while under Council restrictions. Technologies that the Council had deemed impossible appeared overnight. Clean energy systems that could power entire planets, medical advances that could cure diseases the Council had claimed were untreatable, and transportation systems that made traditional space travel obsolete. They weren't being restricted, realized Dr. Beam as he studied the human patents. They were sandbagging. Everything they submitted to us for approval was deliberately outdated. They kept their real advances hidden. The Council's attempts to maintain control grew desperate. They tried to activate their emergency protocols, only to find their systems compromised. They attempted to rally their loyal forces, only to discover that their military communications had been quietly redirected through human networks for years. In a historic session that was broadcast across the galaxy, the younger species formally withdrew from the Council. Their representative, Admiral Swift of the Star Collective, made their position clear. "The age of artificial restrictions is over. The Council didn't protect us. They imprisoned us. Humanity showed us the truth, and more importantly, they showed us a better way forward." The Council's response was cut short as their own junior members began walking out. Centuries of loyalty dissolved in minutes as the truth of their oppression became impossible to ignore. But humanity's most devastating revelation was yet to come. Ambassador Miller addressed the galaxy one final time, revealing that Earth had developed something the Council had long claimed was impossible: a way to safely share advanced technology between species. "The Council told us it couldn't be done," Miller explained. "They said different species couldn't safely use each other's technology. That was a lie. They wanted to keep us dependent on them. Well, today that ends. Earth opened its databases to its new allies. Centuries of technological progress, carefully hidden from Council oversight, became available to those who chose to stand with humanity. The effect was immediate and dramatic. Within days, the younger species began implementing human innovations. Their worlds transformed as new technologies lifted them from artificial scarcity to true abundance. Medical breakthroughs eliminated diseases that the Council had charged fortunes to treat. Energy crises disappeared overnight. The old guard of the Council watched in helpless rage as their power structure collapsed. Their final attempt to maintain control, threatening to reveal dangerous secrets about their former subjects, backfired spectacularly when humanity released proof that those secrets were also fabrications. "You don't understand what you've done," warned Elder Spark in a last desperate message to Earth. "The galaxy needs order, structure, control." The response came not from humanity, but from their new allies. "No," replied Admiral Swift. "The galaxy needs freedom. And thanks to humanity, we finally have it." The Council's power didn't end with a bang, but with a quiet series of resignations as its members realized the truth. They had spent so long controlling others that they had forgotten how to adapt themselves. And in a galaxy suddenly full of possibilities, those who couldn't adapt had no place in power. The formal dissolution of the Galactic Council took place exactly 1 month after humanity's revelations. The massive chamber that had once housed the galaxy's most powerful beings now hosted representatives from all species, old and new, gathered to sign the Galactic Concordat. Ambassador Miller stood at the podium, but this time his presence brought hope rather than fear. "Today marks not an ending, but a beginning, he announced to the assembled delegates. For the first time, all species will have an equal voice in shaping our shared future. The new alliance, dubbed the Interstellar Commonwealth, operated on principles that would have been unthinkable under the old council. Merit, not age, determined leadership. Innovation was encouraged, not suppressed. Technology was shared, not hoarded. The first order of business, Miller continued, is to address the damage done by centuries of artificial restrictions. He gestured to a group of human scientists who stepped forward with data crystals. These contain everything we've developed: medical advances, energy solutions, terraforming technologies, all freely available to any world that needs them. The former council races watched from their new, much smaller section of the chamber. Their power hadn't been stripped entirely. Humanity had insisted on that, but they now held the same single vote as every other species. "You still don't understand what you've done," muttered former Representative Gray to a human diplomat. "Some species aren't ready for such advancement." The diplomat, Captain Tom of Earth's Science Division, smiled. "That's where you're wrong. We studied every species' development path. The only thing holding them back was your interference. Given freedom, they're advancing faster than even we expected." He was right. Across the galaxy, worlds that had struggled under council restrictions were transforming. The Novians had already adapted human medical technology to cure diseases that had plagued their people for generations. The Star Collective had combined their own innovations with Earth's energy systems to create something entirely new. Most surprisingly, some of the older races began to change too. Those who accepted the new reality found themselves welcomed as equals, their ancient knowledge valued but not worshipped. Those who resisted found themselves increasingly isolated as the galaxy moved forward without them. The key, Miller explained in a private session with the new Commonwealth leaders, was never about technology or power. It was about trust. The council failed because they never trusted anyone but themselves. We're succeeding because we choose to trust each other. The changes weren't just technological. Trade flourished as artificial barriers fell. Cultural exchange programs sprang up between worlds that had never been allowed to interact. Scientific cooperation led to breakthroughs that benefited all species. A year after the Council's fall, humanity revealed their final surprise. "We've been working on something," Miller announced to the Commonwealth Assembly. "A way to travel between galaxies. We'd like to invite all member worlds to join the expedition." The chamber erupted in excited discussion. The former council members watched in disbelief as species they had once deemed too primitive eagerly joined planning sessions for intergalactic exploration. "You know what the funny thing is?" Miller said to his staff after the session. "We never wanted to rule the galaxy. We just wanted everyone to have a fair chance. The council thought we were fighting for power, but we were fighting for possibility." As ships from 100 worlds gathered for the first intergalactic expedition, the galaxy had changed beyond recognition. The fear that had gripped it during humanity's withdrawal from negotiations had transformed into something else: hope. The old council's dire predictions of chaos never materialized. Instead, the galaxy entered a golden age of cooperation and discovery. Species that had been enemies under the old system found common ground in shared aspirations. And humanity, they did what they had always done best. They adapted, they innovated, and most importantly, they shared their success with others. The galaxy had feared them when they ended negotiations, but in the end, that fear had given birth to something greater than anyone had imagined. The age of restriction was over. The age of possibility had begun.